You know, when you pull up to a lake that you're not real familiar with, you have to rely on maps, whether it's a paper map or like your GPS map like I have here in front of me. You know, Garmin and not only Garmin, but all the electronics companies really make pretty good maps right now. Garmin especially, they've got the new HD maps. They actually spent time, went out on all the lakes around the country with their own sonar boats and got the most updated high definition maps on the market. But when I pull up to a lake, like we're here at Lake Murray, where do we fish? I mean, you look at this lake, the lake is huge. You know, there's thousands and thousands of miles of shoreline. Well, first you have to figure out, are you gonna be fishing shallow or are you gonna be fishing deep? You know, it's the springtime of the year right now and these fish are staging up on the shallow points leading into the spawning pockets. And so that's what I'm looking for. So let me show you how to read a map and I'll give you some tips on what to look for and some places that would really look kind of fishy in my opinion. You know, first of all, I pull up to a lake. And by the way, let me say this. I research these lakes a lot sitting at my home in Clewiston, sitting here in my boat or even on my computer. Spend a lot of time just looking at where the contours are and seeing what the lake, how it's all laid out. But as I zoom in, I start to notice here at Lake Murray, you've got this big white line right down here through the middle. This big white solid line. That's your creek channel. That's your river channel right there. And it says here 124 feet deep, 149 feet deep. So this is your main flow of water that runs down through Lake Murray here. Of course, I'm not going to be bass fishing out there. That's just gives me an idea of where the flow is and kind of how this lake's laid out. But as I zoom in a little bit, as you notice, you'll start to see some darker contour lines. And what those darker contour lines mean, that means that's where you have the most drop off, the greatest change in depth, because those contour lines are closer together, so they stack up. So anywhere you see these darker areas, that's going to be your steepest drop-offs, and that's an important thing to know, especially in the wintertime when you're looking for those deep drop-offs. But you know, as I zoom in here, let's cruise around the lake here. Let's take this pocket right down here by the dam. That's a good example. You got a big pocket right here down by the dam, and as I zoom in, I start to see, as these contour lines are pretty even right through here, but there's a lot of good depth right in here, a lot of drop off. But you can see here, you have a solid blue line. That's going to let you know where your shallower water is. So as you see that faded blue line, you know that's where that water's going to flatten out a little bit. You look back in this little pocket, and it's deep all the way to the back. You look in this little pocket here, it's a little bit shallower because those contour lines are spread out, okay? Here, these contour lines are farther apart. So you're going to see some different depth changes. And that's what I look for. You know, this time of the year, these fish might be staging. I'm going to zoom out to the mouth of this little pocket right here. Okay, this is a spawning pocket. And let's look at this point right out here. Here's a main point coming into the spawning pocket. And what's neat about that, as I zoom in, I see these contour lines. See how they swing out right here and they come around this corner? And there's a high spot, a little light blue high spot. That's an underwater point, okay? So when you look at it visually, it doesn't look like anything except shoreline. But here under the water, you've got deep water coming in here, turning out, making an underwater point, back around. This is probably 200 yards offshore. So this would be a great place for staging fish, coming in and out of these spawning pockets, this shallow underwater point. And again, how I can tell is based on these contour lines, and I can see how they're stacked in tight right here. That means that's going to be the deep side of the point, and these contour lines here are spread out, and that's going to be your gradual sloping side on this side. So I would concentrate, I actually drove across that, look at that. I would concentrate in this particular area right here of this underwater point because that's where your deepest water is coming into your shallowest water. So that's a nice little drop off. And again, it's right here outside of a big spawning pocket. These fish are going to spawn back in here. So that's what I do. I spend a lot of time just cruising around the lake, looking at these different places. Look, here's another one right here. Look at this big long land point, okay? Going into a spawning pocket. Look at this big light blue shaded line right there. Okay, check this out. Look at all that right in there. Got all the deep contours coming in, got a little side point here underwater, and this is your shallower water right here. So this would be another good staging point. So when you're looking at your maps, whether it's a paper map or a map on your units, look for things like that. Look for those obscure underwater changes in contours to find those bass. This scum right here, that's hot. There's a lot of warmth in that compared to just regular hydrilla or milfoil. That scum provides warmth, gets those